move on. There's a question from the back there.
Yeah, Bob Taylor, self-funded retiree. The bickering just went on. I can't believe it. Congratulations on the Chamber of Commerce for organising this event. Thanks very much. It's an opportunity for people of Alice Springs to have their say. I don't know why you're all bickering about it there. Get on and answer the questions if they particularly refer to you. This is like deja vu to me because I've been here quite a while, and a lot of stuff we actually had a combined control room in Alice Springs for the police. We actually had an assistant commissioner in Alice Springs for the police. So there's been a brain drain, or the top of the departments or government organisations have gone to Darwin. Now, this is a fairly conservative town, and probably will get a CLP government in power, which probably after 10 years of Labor will be a good thing. But the thing is, are we going to go back to what we were 20, 30 years ago? Are we going to improve on what we had 20 or 30 years ago? Or what's going to happen?
So just to clarify, so are you asking the country Liberal about...
Well, basically the country Liberal, because I reckon they'll probably get into power in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so returning to service.
So it's important that we get the information on, for example, decentralisation. I think my first time I ever spoke at a public meeting was in 1974 when they had, I think the Whitlam government had a decentralisation policy where they're trying to devolve things to regional areas. Well, I believe in that, but and this town has grown over the last 30 or 40 years. But what really needs to happen is probably more, I think somebody said it before, that the centre of government's in Darwin, and that's where the power is. But I think politicians, once they get into power, even persuasion, they forget that there are regions. It's the Northern Territory, it's not Darwin.
Okay.
And I'd like somebody that probably from the CLP to address that.
All right. So you were talking about bringing services back to Alice Springs. Somebody from the country Liberals to respond to that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. As I alluded to before, we're very strong on re-regionalising the Northern Territory. Sure, things might have been great 30 years ago, but we don't intend to go back to that era. We're not going to change just for change's sake. If you're talking about the great old days and all that sort of thing, well, hopefully we can have that again. But we're not going to sort of pluck something from 1978 out and just try and copy that. The country Liberals have a very strong plan to grow the Northern Territory, and that is through a three-hub economy. That economy, those three hubs, part of that includes mining, agriculture and tourism. At the moment we've got a bit of a one shot in the locker, that's IMPEX. And IMPEX is going to be great for the top end, but there will be very little, I think we'll see throughout the rest of the Northern Territory. So we need to make sure that the Territory is, I suppose, future-proofed, you might say. So when the gas projects and IMPEX move on or move beyond their lifespan, then we do have other economies such as agriculture and tourism, as I suggested before, answering your question, Peter, with the Tourism Commission. So we are committed to a prosperous Northern Territory. In fact, it's about putting the future back into the hands of Territorians and not just governing for the sake of being in power.
Thanks, mate. Phil, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah.
Pass it on.
Just in response to that, I've lived here now for 19 years and I've lived under both regimes. I've seen this gradual shift to Darwin, and it's because that's where the party machines are based. And there's always this big talk about, the election will be won and lost in the northern suburbs of Darwin, because both parties have this, that's where their base is. Being an independent means if you want to be an independent representative of the people of Central Australia, of Greater X, or whatever, you are responsible to the people. You are not responsible to a party machine, because that's what happens. And I would suggest that if people think that through, then we can actually make sure things come back down here.
Okay. Tilly, I just wanted to respond to that one. Oh, Ian, would you pass it along with the other?
Just first thing is, if people could ask me some questions, it would be a chance to speak a bit more. But just No,
You can ask questions of anybody.
obviously a lot of questions for the major parties, and I just wanted to reiterate what Bill was saying. Look, let's have some real discussion out there around the parliament, the next makeup of the territory parliament. There's obviously the two major parties which are going to form a major part, but who knows, there could be independent voices in that mix. And everyone's going to have to work together to come up with solutions and policies that are going to be for the betterment of the territory. Matt, you just said that we're all going to work together for the territory. I'd like to see some areas of common interest where they can really stand up for the rights of the Territorians, not just rhetoric that everyone gets involved in, but let's think about the context of the territory and how we are so dominated by our dependence on federal law and federal income and so on and so forth. Let's have some real conversation about the intervention-related policies and other situations where the federal government does come in and impose waste dumps on Territorians. I'd like to see a bit more of that sort of common ground discussion. It doesn't have to be along party lines. That's what I make the point. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ed. And Rowan Foley, you wanted to comment as well?
Yeah, thanks. I'd just like to make the comment or the observation that when the Conservatives did take power in Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland, we've seen dramatic public sector funding cuts. I think there was about 2,000 people in Victoria, 5,000 people in New South Wales, and 20,000 people in Queensland that are now unemployed. So if you're a nurse, doctor, teacher, police officer, or anybody that relies upon those people coming into your shop or to your restaurant spending that government dollar here in the Territory, then I would be very concerned about the public sector cuts that will be coming if the Country Liberal Party is elected. The majority of the people who did vote the LNP in Queensland are now having a serious think about how they voted, simply for the fact that they're now unemployed. And it's a very serious issue here in the Territory, particularly Alice Springs, because we all rely upon government dollars to one degree or another. People who are employed in the public sector, they spend their money in the local shops. They buy local fuel, they buy local clothes. And once you take that money out of our regional economy, then this town will go down. So for any self-funded retiree who's looking to use public services in the future, I'd be very wary of where you do vote.
Okay, thank you, Rowan. And
I think we really should respond
you
to
can
that.
respond to that.
I would actually just like to know, whereabouts, what proof do you have of that? What's the proof?
It's the first
Where is it written?
5-point plan.
Where is it?
Where is it? So you're saying that public servants are
We
wasteful?
all know what that means.
Are you saying that public servants are wasteful?
Pull it together, you guys. Come on. And we've been trying, and it is between only two parties, so I don't think what we're doing here exactly, okay, is in our fighting a government between them.
Yes.
Us, we are here for what? You invite us, and that's okay. I don't mind, they can talk, but now we start a big podium, a forum of I don't know what, so I think I'm here for nothing.
Well, I'm sorry, everyone, that you're not being asked any questions. I'm just trying to respond to another Labor lie. That's all it is. It's just a lie and fear-mongering. Another lie, you've got it. Another lie.
From the Liberal Party. Thank you.
Evelyn, did you want to have a word?
We were so thinking, because...
Just wait for the microphone.
Excuse me, we're supposed to answer questions. The questions are direct to a person, and that's it. Then they start answering between each other, but the person who asked the question did not address to everybody. In this case, we felt that we could say something on the subject. We're waving, we are nice and polite because we don't barge in conversation. When somebody talks to us, they're talking between them. So maybe it's time you all decide. Obviously, I've been here for a long time, like this gentleman since 1974. All we are doing now is being done and done and done. Because everybody go for those big parties. Maybe it's time to change for something else. Me, my heart is bleeding for Australia. We are one of the biggest polluters that's found by the Liberal Party. Your UNESCO is against interventions, that's fine, but yes, the 20th Australia, 20th of the land. Maybe you should all think of that. I listen very carefully. We can have industry, we don't care about the climate change. Me, I got my statement from even our insurer. Our insurance company are insured themselves. That's why everything go up. Go to TIO, ask them. Because they know the climate change is going to have earthquake, volcano, whatever you want. Those people don't believe in it. That's fine. You worry for your business, so am I. I'm a business, my daughter is one. But in 20 years' time, maybe we'll have nothing to worry about it. If you talk of intervention at UNESCO, you will see what they think of Australia. It is a no-no. The chain of Uluru, it's on UNESCO, it should not be there. It must go, that's what it was decided. It's still there. Why? Because the big parties think only money and don't think about us at all. So now, I'm green, hard to it, and that's all I can say.
Okay. Okay, we have time for a couple